Time for another edition of the Kauffman Corner Podcast. With you, as always, the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli, co-founder of Baseball Prospectus. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. We talked to one of the best in the business, I think the best, Jeff Passan from ESPN senior Major League Baseball insider, joins us. We'll get his thoughts on how the Royals offseason is going, maybe some of the off seasons around baseball as well. I don't know. We'll see if there's time. Talk about the fences coming in after we get done with Jeff. Rany doing a deep dive on some numbers for what to expect with the fences coming in. That's all coming up right here on the Kauffman Corner Podcast.
You're listening to the Kauffman Corner Podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kauffman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and a former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kauffman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. And now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. And Rany, how about it? Jeff Passan, Major League Baseball insider. Yeah, the best. I talk to him every week during the baseball season. We're fortunate to have him on Sports Radio 810 WHB on the radio show. And what a time to talk to Jeff when, the economics of baseball have completely crumbled. When $60 million a year gets you, you paid somebody $11 million more per year than Shohei Ohtani on his same roster. It makes complete sense to me. Why wouldn't we have him on now, right?
I think you're looking for someone to grab a pitchfork with you and storm the gates. So I don't know if Jeff's the man, but we'll find out.
Let's find out. We welcome Jeff Passan here to the festivities. Jeff, how are you, sir?
Look, at least you know you can potentially get pardoned. So that's great for you, Rany.
First of all, thanks for joining us. We appreciate the time, buddy. And it's good to be talking baseball. And that is the news of the week. And what does it mean? When the Dodgers payroll is now, I know they're over $1 billion in deferred money. I'm not sure what the details are on this contract, but $60 million. Kyle Tucker's a really good player. Make no mistake about it. But $60 million per, is it official lockout/strike coming to you at the end of the 26th season?
The lockout was coming regardless of what Kyle Tucker, or let's not forget Bo Bichette, signed for this week. And it was really interesting because I feel like there was an inevitability to this type of contract. We just had not seen any players at this point who were willing to turn down enormous $300+ million sums of money in order to try and juice that average annual value. Because if Kyle Tucker had taken the Toronto Blue Jays, 10-year, $300+ million offer that included a lot of deferred money, he would be making about half of what he actually is per year. Now, it's over a different term, but what the Dodgers are doing is what teams have always aspired to do, which is sign guys for their prime years and not have to get stuck on the back end with tens, or in Juan Soto's case, hundreds of millions of dollars being paid to guys who were in their late 30s or even early 40s. What does this mean? Oh, man. I'm writing something right now. It's going to run at some point this week that tries to take a look at the entirety of the scope of Major League Baseball through the lens of this Kyle Tucker and to a lesser extent Bo Bichette contract. And where I'm at now and where I see the game at this point is that everybody is angry. The majority of fans, I believe, are angry, not that there is no salary cap or that there are no salary restrictions in place, but I think they're just angry at the comical nature of where finance has gone in Major League Baseball. And by that, I mean, it's not just Kyle Tucker being paid a net present value of $57.1 million a year, which, if you send it through the Los Angeles Dodgers salary structure, because they have exceeded the competitive balance tax threshold multiple times at the highest levels, they're being taxed 110% for every dollar they spend, which means Kyle Tucker's salary to the Dodgers this year is going to be $57.1 million plus another 57.1 for that 100%, plus another 5.7 for that extra 10%, meaning the Dodgers, to get Kyle Tucker this year, are going to spend $119.9 million, which is the size payroll that 12 teams in Major League Baseball carry right now. That fact right there, like, Soren, we have had so many discussions on the radio about this subject. And, I stick up for the Dodgers because I believe what the Dodgers are doing, is awesome in that they are actually going out and trying to create a dynasty. I respect that. I really do. But man, when I saw that, I was like, how can fans look at the state of baseball right now and stomach it? I guess, I get that we're coming off a World Series that was among the best ever. I get that the game in so many regards is healthy at this point. But when fans lose faith and confidence in the institutions to keep this on the right path, what happens then is something like a salary cap, or the idea of a salary cap, gets shoved down their throat, and they begin to believe that that's the panacea, that's the silver bullet, that's what's going to solve the game, when in reality that might be the thing, or the idea of that might be the thing that drives it even further off the cliff than it is right now.
So, Jeff, do you get the sense that the Kyle Tucker contract specifically might be a tipping point of sorts, and just in terms of shifting the narrative? Because I'm with you in the sense that I've always supported the right of teams who want to be great to spend. I'd much rather than spend money on players than line their owner's bank account. But even when I saw the news after all the rumors, the Blue Jays are hot and heavy for him, the Mets. Nope, it's the Dodgers again. And at some point, you can have a sports league which is, like an 1890s Gilded Age, structure. It's called the EPL. It's called pro soccer in general.
It's even more. Danny Klingscale brought up. He said it's like the Bundesliga, which is the highest level of soccer in Germany, where Bayern Munich wins it 9 out of 10 years.
Right. And people their fans still come out for that, but I don't think culturally the stomach of the American sports fan, is prepared for that sort of thing. Europe, they want their government socialist and their sports ruthlessly capitalist. In America, we want our government ruthlessly capitalist and our sports socialist. We want bad teams to be rewarded, right? That's why tinking doesn't exist in soccer, right? Tinking exists in American sports. But this contract, it does feel like the odds of a work stoppage, which may have already been uncomfortably high. I just feel like, you could probably bet on this on some prediction market somewhere, but I have to think that the probability spiked the moment that Kyle Tucker contract came down. So do you feel like that's the perception in the industry?
I think it is, but I think we're also prone, Rany, to like emotional swings based on what's happening in the moment right now. And one can argue that the Dodgers have been doing this for a long time. I'm with you in that the alarmism that has come from this particular deal to me is more than when Shohei Ohtani went there. It's more than when Yoshinobu Yamamoto went there. It's almost like every time the Dodgers sign somebody, it's a new reason for people to get pissed off and to blame the Dodgers for everything. And as I've been working on this story, I keep coming back to this. Major League Baseball is the sport where when you're trying, you get penalized, and when you're not, you can just skate right by. There's no mechanism at the bottom to force those owners who are cashing, 70, 80, $100 million revenue sharing checks every year to turn around and spend those on actual players and on the on-field team. And so the Dodgers, I respect them. I respect their ability to completely ignore that everybody hates them and to go out and prioritize winning. And frankly, guys, we've all been around long enough now where we understand how history repeats itself. And look, I was in college back in the late 90s and early 2000s, but going back and reading about it, going back and talking with people who were in there at the time, this is all the same sentiment that was surrounding the Yankees at that point. And the competitive balance tax, which nominally got put in place in the late 90s, but really started getting teeth in the early 2000s, was a direct response to what the New York Yankees were doing. And I give Major League Baseball a lot of credit. It has had labor peace without games missed for a longer period of time than the NFL, the NBA, and the NHL. The CBT system, to some extent, has worked, or at least has kept the game stable enough for it to continue operating. But sometimes systems need to change. And I think we're in that moment right now with the expiration of the current collective bargaining agreement on December 1st, with what seems like the inevitability of a lockout coming, that I'm not saying that players or owners need to accept particular specific elements for these talks even to start. No, what I'm saying is everybody needs to be open-minded about everything, and everybody needs to start listening to each other. They talk past each other all the time. The players say, God, no, we will not have a salary cap. And the owners say, well, we're going to offer one anyway. The owners say, we feel like competitive balance is out of whack right now. And the players say, well, we feel like the game is doing fine. And instead of trying to go out and find areas in which they can write something and create something that will make for a better baseball going forward, they are huddled in their corners, with provisions surrounding them, getting ready for a war. And that's what it's going to be at this point. And frankly, I don't think it has to. Frankly, I think it's cutting off your nose to spite your face, considering all the good things that are going on in baseball right now. But it seems that's the path down which we're headed. And as a baseball fan, I am fearful of that.
Yeah, it is scary, and it does feel like that's where we're going. It doesn't seem like they're getting anywhere near, getting closer. But you laid out brilliantly in the first part about how much the Dodgers are paying, and I think that's the part that, like, it's like the drag is not dragging on them, right? That's supposed to be the deterrent from being able to put together a super team, and they're blowing right by it. I mean,
Yep.
Maybe you can double it, triple it. Okay, you want to sign him for 60, you got to pay 240, in to do it. I'm sure there's a way where they could meet. We're talking to Jeff Passan here. Let's talk about the Royals offseason. There is no Kyle Tucker. There was no Kyle Tucker, but it is one that I think has most Royals fans feeling like they've improved. I think we'd all like to see one more bat. Feels like with the Red Sox moves pitching wise, that was kind of was Duran going to end up, coming? The Red Sox seem to have moved on and found their pitching in other places. So is this the Royals off season? Are they done in your mind? Or do you think there's still something to come? And what do you think of what they did?
I think they're probably done in terms of big substantive moves. I don't necessarily see another multi-year contract or, frankly, a multi-year contract, because they didn't sign anyone to one so far this offseason. But I think it has been a solid offseason and a cost-effective one, too. I also remember, guys, at this time last year, when the Royals put out a 3-year, $66 million contract offer to Anthony Santander that he wound up turning down. And so the notion that somebody lingers on the market for too long and the Royals jump in and pounce, I think that's a realistic thing still. I think John Sherman wants to win. I think JJ Piccolo feels like there's enough there right now to go out and get the Central. And if there's some dry powder sitting around and you can make that even more so, then hey, go ahead and do it. But I think the Tigers feel the same way. The Guardians, despite I look at their roster and I'm like, how in the hell has this team won consecutive division titles? It makes no sense to me. And yet they're there every single season. I think the Twins are actually probably going to be a little bit better than people think. And the White Sox, they're still maybe a 100-loss team. They're still for sure the last place team, but even they're improved at this point. But the Central is just so there for the taking. that to me, any dollar the Royals are going out and spending right now that gives them a better chance to go out and win that division is a dollar worth spending.
So, they have added a little bit on offense. They signed Lane Thomas, who traded for Isaac Collins. Obviously, the outfield was a scar last year. So any improvement there is going to have a huge, impact. But I think the argument the Royals would make if they were asked, have you done enough to improve your team offensively, specifically to make the playoffs next year, is that they're going to have a full season of Carter Jensen and a full season of a hopefully vastly improved Jack Caglione. And that's essentially their additions. Is the perception in the industry such that those two guys, I mean, Cags obviously has already had his rookie year, but that he can be an impact player and that Carter Jensen can hit the ground running, and that these guys actually be above average or at least average, quality everyday players in 2026?
I think it's impossible, Rany, to look at these guys and say this is what they're going to be. What we can do is look at them and say this is what their skills are, and this is how their skills are likely to translate. And I remember seeing a game, I think it was last September, where Carter Jensen's just spraying the ball. I think he had 3 opposite field doubles that day, and seeing him hit a 470-foot home run. And if you see those moments right there, you're like, oh goodness, this could be something. This could be a real guy. And we saw ups and downs from Caglione last year, more downs than ups, but God, the ups are tantalizing. And so I don't think it's just that the Royals are hoping that they're going to get those versions of those guys. I think they're banking on it. I think their 2026 season, as much as anything, depends on the development of those two, because they have not gone out and made the big moves. They have made pragmatic moves this winter. Lane Thomas on a 1-year deal for, I think, $5.5-6 million. That is a practical move, because if you get a healthy Lane Thomas, he's a good, 6th, 7th option in your lineup. And if Caglione and or Jensen hits, that's where Lane Thomas slots in. Isaac Collins, he's an older guy, didn't have his rookie year until last year, but was extremely productive. And to get him and Nick Mears for Angel Zerpa when you have left-handed relief pitching in that bullpen already, I thought was a savvy move by the Royals. So all the things that they've done, they make sense. Are they enough? I think a lot of that depends on their ability to grow and develop players. And, we've seen over the last few years, like Michael Garcia is a perfect example, a guy who, when he came up, was, mostly a bat to ball and might have an empty 300 average one year. And all of a sudden he's putting some slug into it last year, getting those extra base hits, winning a Gold Glove. And the Royals have now started to show the ability to develop players who are in the big league still beyond what they did down in the minor leagues. And that's the imperative here with Caglione and Jensen. Get them past the large number of strikeouts that they've had, and hopefully get them to be productive guys who are hitting the ball hard every single day in that lineup.
You mentioned developing position players. They've also obviously been very good at finishing off pitching, making pitching better. Cole Ragans being the prime example. We heard that the Royals are maybe dangling Chris Bubich to the Red Sox. The Red Sox are asking for Cole Ragans. The Royals don't want to give him up. You can understand why with the talent, but are they making a mistake? Like, now that they do seem to have it figured out on how to do pitching, is it time to cash in on a guy who's had the injuries that he's already had, was hurt last year? If someone's still willing to give them fair value for it, is this the time? Are they making a mistake to not cash in on him and just trust their ability to develop some more pitching?
Soren, I think if they could have cashed in on him, they would have. And by cash in, I mean go ahead and flip Chris Bubich for superior value. I just think that the way that the Royals look at Chris Bubich and where he fits on this team.
But I'm talking about Ragans. Should they be moving?
Ragans?
Is the guy. I get it. Like, I couldn't understand how Bubich was being dangled. I'm like, he didn't pitch at the end of the year. Who's gonna make that move? Now, if he throws in spring training and looks good, I could see somebody giving him something. I never understood it, and here we sit, and he's still in the Royals. But Cole Ragans was the apple of the Red Sox eye, seemingly by most accounts. Like, should the Royals be like, look, it's a ticking time bomb. They all are. Let's get what we need right now.
Personally, I don't think so.
Okay.
And here's why. I get it. You want the Royals to be the Rays. And that's okay. I'm not saying that pejoratively. If the Royals could have a run of success similar to what the Rays have had over the last decade, I think every Royals fan would be elated if they could get to a World Series again. If they could consistently, and remember, the Rays are doing this in the American League East, if they can consistently be in contention for a playoff spot. But man, it's taken the Royals a while to get here, and you want to send the best pitcher out the door before they've even won anything?
I mean, listen, I get it, but you're also the guy who wrote The Arm, and in that book, the most telling way of predicting what's going to happen is previous injury, and that sits here with Cole Ragans. Previous injury, just last year. Previous.
I mean, not just last year, but beyond that, previous injuries. I mean, the guy missed almost 3 seasons because of elbow surgeries and reconstructions. And it makes sense practically. But God, would that not just be such a dick punch for the 2026 Royals? I mean, that's what it comes down to, man. And when we look, let's look at JJ Piccolo versus other executives, other presidents of baseball operations or general managers. There is a set of them that look at this like absolute stone cold killers. They do not care what somebody brings emotionally to a team or what he brings in the clubhouse. They view every player as if, it's like in Star Wars, Finn is called FN something. They view every player like a number. It doesn't matter what you are. You are bot number 33, and if you throw 98 and have trade value, peace. They have no problem doing that. And if that's how you want the Royals to operate, as coldly as that, fair. It works. It absolutely works. I just don't think that's JJ Piccolo. I don't think that's what John Sherman wants. I don't know that the Royals are ever going to operate that way. And what they've done over the last couple of years, I think, has been a pretty decent facsimile of it, just not extended all the way out. It's a half measure. And listen, we've heard Mike Ehrmantraut say it before. No more half measures, Walter. Either you should go full or you shouldn't do it at all. I don't quite agree with that. I do think there are needles to be threaded in baseball. It's just a really, really difficult thing to do. And the way that you propose operating does tend to, I think, over the long run, and we're never going to see this definitively because the sample just isn't big enough. But I do think over the long run, it would lead to more success. Now, let me bring up a point that I think is important. Getting from that beginning of a run into a point where it is sustained doesn't always happen. There are failures to launch. And so if you're in the middle of a time of success right now, I think we would say that based on what the Royals record was last year in the playoff run the year before, they are in a period of success at this point. Do you want to do anything that could potentially interrupt it? I guess that's part of it, Soren. I guess it's like you're making risky decisions all the time, and maybe instead of being negative like I was right there, you would actually be extending it and enhancing it. But it's just such a hard thing for teams to change their perspective as harshly as you have to if you're going to be willing to go and operate like that.
Yeah, I mean, my perception is I do think there is a middle ground here because we've seen the other side. We've seen the Dayton Moore approach, and that's you never want to go the full Dayton Moore, where you won't trade Whit Merrifield on a 100 loss team for reasons that are never. It's all about emotion. It's all about building a family. But if your family is dysfunctional and nobody wants to hang out with them, maybe it's time for somebody to move out. But yeah, I don't want the full raisification either. I mean, I look back at that 2014-2015 run. It would have been an incredible run regardless. But I think the fact that we watched those guys develop, were drafted, in some cases out of high school, struggle in the major leagues. Alex Gordon hitting a home run in Game 1 of the World Series, it would have mattered no matter what. But when you follow the entire arc of Alex Gordon, his career, as a fan, speaking as a fan, I mean, I can do the analyst side of it, but speaking as a fan, did that mean more to me? Yeah, I think it did. Right. And after that year, they re-signed him to a 4-year deal. Probably didn't work out. Does that bother me? Not really. Right. Like to be able to see, like there is, I hate to say there's more to sports than just winning, but there is a little bit more. Right. And
I don't think it's a little. I think it's a lot more. I think the emotional ties that you have with a franchise are made through decisions like keeping Cole Ragans. Now, Soren, if the Royals are where the Nationals are right now, and we're using Cole Ragans as the Mackenzie Gore facsimile, then yes, you trade him. Absolutely. You cash in at that point. But I feel like there has to be some sort of dispensation for winning, for trying, for, keeping a guy when you have an opportunity to do something that brings fans joy. The Nationals are bringing no joy this year. They're only bringing rebuild. The Royals, though, they could bring a division title. And once you get into October, man, the last time the Dodgers lost in the playoffs, do you remember when it was? And do you remember how it happened?
No.
Was it?
They got their asses whooped by the Arizona Diamondbacks.
The Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Got swept out the year that the Diamondbacks, as I believe, either the Diamondbacks were a 5 or a 6, or the Rangers were a 5 or a 6. And you had a 5 seed versus a 6 seed in the World Series that year. Baseball makes that possible still. That I think is what gets lost in all this with the Dodgers. They're going to win series more often than they're not. And they are, they're going to go into this year probably the heaviest World Series favorites we've seen in a quarter century plus. But the game is often the great equalizer. And I hope for the sake of baseball that the game equalizes this year, because it feels like there's some imbalance at this point. A lot of people are getting turned off by it.
Matt Quatraro, the Royals extending Matt Quatraro. You and I were kind of texting back and forth. I mean, we don't get the details of what it is. Like, we know John Harbaugh got a 5-year, $100 million deal to be the New York
Giants.
Did he
get
$100 million, 5 years.
Good for him. Unfreaking believable.
Yes. And by the way, Kevin Harlan's brother is his agent. So
better.
Good for him, because
whatever
the percentage on that deal is a great one. So I was talking to Kevin about that on last week. But baseball managers aren't making near that kind of money. I think the highest is
it still Craig Counsell?
Yeah, Craig Counsell went to the
Counsell at $8 million.
At $8 million. Matt Quatraro, we've heard, it is more of a general manager's game than it is a manager. That's the important part, is procuring the talent. But I think Matt Quatraro is outstanding. I
agree.
I think this was a really good move. And do you agree? Is he one of the best managers in baseball? And are they smart for locking him up for as many years as they did?
What's the threshold for best managers in baseball? Is that like top 5 or?
Yeah, however you want to define it. Where would you put him?
I think he's a top 10 manager, probably.
Okay.
I don't know that I'd go top 5, but
Is it impossible to be top 5 without more postseason? I mean, is that where you really earn it?
Yeah. That's where it stops me. In terms of Matt Quatraro is an excellent manager of the clubhouse. And I think that with all that managers have to juggle these days, and my feeling on managers has sort of whipsawed in recent years, because for a long time I just bought into the idea, managers don't have nearly the control that they used to. How important are they really? I think they're very important. I think leadership, though unquantifiable, actually has a really tangible effect on teams, and being able to walk into the clubhouse and have those conversations that you need to with all 26 of the players on your roster and explain to them what the reason you're doing something is, but do so without sounding like you're talking down to them or not sounding meek. Just the balance of all the things that managers need to do. I think Matt Quatraro handles very well. I think he does the media well. I think he understands and really, really studies, because he needs to understand organizational philosophies and minor league talent and all of the things that you need to do there. So home run hire and keeping him around for a long time. I think when it is all said and done, he is going to have a chance to have the most wins of any manager in Kansas City Royals history.
I would take that.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jeff, let's briefly talk about the ballpark and the announcement that they're bringing in the fences. I know you broke that news. The Passan bomb I was not expecting on my Twitter feed, but I mean it's fascinating. We'll talk after we're done with you. I have some analytical aspect to it, but I'm just curious. Do you have a sense of how this came to be, in the sense that I know they've been thinking about it for years. I mean, in the press conference, Dayton, JJ Picollo talked about like the Eric Hosmer triple in the old Wild
the left center. Yeah.
Which is like, we're coming up on 12 years ago now, but like they made this decision now. And do you have a sense of how much of that is just because the ballpark has an expiration date at this point versus they're looking at their personnel and, just kind of a Machiavellian, this will make kind of this raisification of, out with emotion in which is cold, hard numbers. And this will make us a better team. And we don't care about tradition. I mean, nobody cares about the tradition of offense necessarily, but I'm just curious how much of it was they actually think they can be better based on the personnel they have on hand right now.
I think it's everything that you mentioned. I think if they're staying at Kauffman Stadium long term, this probably doesn't get nearly as much legs as it did. But I think everybody was tired of sitting in the suite during the game, watching a ball that off the bat looks like it would be out in 29 other ballparks and then getting Kauffman'd. Like that happened too much for their liking. And also, let's not forget, their pitching staff benefited from these deeper fences and from the lack of balls flying over them. But Dr. Daniel Mack, who runs the Royals R&D department, was essentially told, go out and find me information. Let's try to make this ballpark as home run neutral compared to the rest of the league as possible. The Royals were hovering, depending on the year, the park factor for home runs, in the mid 70s to mid 80s. Pretty much ever since the fences were pushed back out following 2003. And, we're coming up on a couple of decades now of this. And I think when you have Carter Jensen and Jack Caglione, two guys whose best tools are power, coming in and joining a lineup that has Salvador Perez, whose best tool by far at this point in his career is his power. Vinny Pasquantino, who has enough power to be a 30-plus home run hitter. Bobby Witt Jr., who has power. Like, the Royals, for the first time in a while, have guys who can hit the ball out over the fence. So they just want to make it a little easier to do that. And I think that, I was told the Royals look at this like if everything plays like it has in the past, they would be gaining 32 runs in value and losing 17 runs in value.
So a win and a half a year.
Correct. That's
a
exactly what it is.
1.5 win player is, that's easily 10 to 12 million a year. And I think
for those who don't understand the math on this, by the way, every 10 runs is seen as a win in analytics circles. So if you're outscoring the opponent by 15 runs, or if you're gaining 15 runs, that's a win and a half above replacement right there. And a win and a half, guys, might be all it takes to do this. But if the numbers came back, and the Royals were going into this looking for fairness, and the fairness was that they were down 8 runs, fences would still be where they are right now. Both of these things needed to happen, both the information that led you to the neutral fly ball profile, as well as that neutral fly ball profile actually projecting to help you out.
Yeah, it is. And there's the mental side of it as well, right? That's the raw data. If everybody swung the bat the way they swung the bat, but does it change people's approach? Does it make it, how much of a chance do you think there is that the mental approach going up there, they get an even bigger benefit? Or it works the opposite, that now people, swing away because they think they can reach the fences, and now we see offense trap. I mean, how much will the numbers be the numbers?
I think that's the only part of this that I had something of a hard time reconciling. This was such an objective project, but almost the driving force behind it was the Royals believing that when their players went out on the road, they swung differently. Like when you get to Cincinnati, just like licking your lips at like the fence that looks like it's 280 feet away, and they're going to change their swings there. And I think the organization values consistency. They value consistency of swings that you can apply anywhere. And they didn't want guys to be swinging differently at Kauffman or in different ballparks just because of where the fences were, and felt like that was an easily addressable issue that just so happens to add seats that they can sell too.
Yeah. It's a great point. By the way, we're disappointed. Where's the Nintendo? How come we don't have the ESPN back behind us? Oh, there it is.
I honestly felt like sitting in front of the computer instead of like 10 feet away from it. So sorry about that. You just got a tour of my office.
There it is. We now know we have the configuration. We know what we're looking at when we see them on SportsCenter here coming forward. Jeff, hey, we really appreciate the time. Thanks for sharing some of your time with us. Certainly looking forward to when's the next time you're going to be on SportsCenter? When you hit Florida? When you hit Arizona with spring training?
We'll be on sometime soon. And if not, you can see me on the Pat McAfee show and other ESPN platforms. But yeah, we're getting close. There are owners meetings in less than a month, and spring training starts right after that. I'm excited. It is going to be cold as shit here this week, as well. So getting out to Arizona is going to be an absolute godsend.
Yes, it will be a nice change for sure. Jeff, thanks so much, buddy, and we'll talk to you on down the road.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate you having me.
All right, there he goes, Jeff Passan from ESPN. He is the best ESPN insider, and nobody knows baseball better than Jeff Passan. So looking forward to hearing his reports when we get down there. And what do you think? Did he get it right about the trading of Cole Ragans?
I mean, he agrees with me on Cole Ragans, so of course I think he's right. So to me, the ultimate thing, I don't want to get too much into the weeds here, but this is the decision to hold on to Cole Ragans has to be a referendum on Cole Ragans himself. And I just think Chris Bubich, it's not Cole Ragans. These are two different pitchers. It's not just two different situations. And I think Cole Ragans is a number one starter when healthy. He's proven that not just during a regular season, he proved it in the playoffs. Right. Yeah. And I just feel like that's not a guy you give up without being absolutely overwhelmed. And the Royals didn't get overwhelmed this winter. So I'm in agreement with him.
We talked about the ballpark there with Jeff. We'll do that. Talk about where the fences are, what it's going to mean. We'll do it right after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot.
This isn't just any burger run. This is a burger run for Whataburger Sweet and Spicy Bacon Burger. 2 fresh all-beef patties with melty cheese, grilled onions, crispy bacon, and sweet and spicy pepper sauce. One for you, one for him, and one for your unofficial roommate, Brad. Always order an extra. For Brad. The all-time favorite sweet and spicy bacon burger from Whataburger. Just like you like it.
All right, Rany, let's talk about the ballpark. The fences coming in. What is it going to mean for the Royals? What's it going to mean for their opponents?
Well, I mean, I think it's a good thing. Okay, let's start with that. Let's just put that out there first. And I think it's fascinating that they made this decision at this point in time because, again, the ballpark has probably an expiration date. It'd be nice to be able to say definitively, not yet, but everybody seems to operate under the assumption that after the 2030 season, the Royals will no longer call Kauffman Stadium their home. So you're looking at 5 years. And Soren, you like sometimes to bring up fantasy baseball analogies. So it's my turn. I didn't play much fantasy, but I played tons of Stratomatic baseball. Right. So I'm going to make a Stratomatic analogy here. When I played in a Stratomatic league, so the way Stratomatic works is you are essentially recreating baseball games using dice and probability, so that you actually play a game. You have the men on base, you hit the odds when Bobby Witt stands in against a pitcher, these are the odds he gets a single, a home run, etc. And then you have strategic decisions. Do you want to steal here? Do you want to pinch hit, etc.? When it comes to home runs, the game has what we call diamonds, which are deep fly balls, which have a chance to be a home run, and that chance is dependent on the ballpark. So these are where ballpark effects come into play. And you can design your ballpark to be an extremely home run friendly or extremely home run unfriendly, as you like. You can also play in a real life, every real life stadium, Kauffman Stadium, has a very low home run rating, but a very high single rating because it's a good place to hit for average. And the rule was you can design your ballpark as you like, but you can only change the dimensions every 5 years, because otherwise it would be like Charlie Finley moving the fences in and out based on the opponent, which was something he really wanted to do with the Kansas City A's back in the 50s, where this year my team has no power, we'll move the fences way back, or vice versa. There's a unfair competitive advantage allowing you to do that very often, and every 5 years was the limit. But even with an every 5 year rule, you have an idea. If you have a lot of young players on your team, you kind of know what the composition of your roster is going to be for the next 5 years. So teams would absolutely take advantage of this rule, and every 5 years would change their dimensions based on their current personnel on hand. And I feel like that's what J.J. Piccolo is doing here. This is not just this is a freebie. It's not like they have to commit to changing the entire philosophy of the organization in terms of the types of players they're going to go out and draft and develop and sign out of Latin America or whatever. This is not a generational defining decision. This is a 5-year pragmatic move. It is a bet on the talent they have on hand right now. Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, but also Jack Caglione and Carter Jensen, I think. There's really no one else in the minor leagues that I'm looking at that'll probably be ready to have that impact. Like Josh Hammond might be the closest thing to a power hitter, that is coming through the system. He hasn't even had a professional at bat yet. But I think it's a bet on the talent on hand that they finally have enough power that moving the fences in might help them more than it hurts them. And I want to get into some of the data about that, but I think the data bears that out. Do you want to hear about the data?
I do want to hear about the data. I know you're going to tell me whether I want to.
Well, I wanted to give you a chance to respond.
But I actually do want to hear about the data.
Good. So what I've done is I basically compiled all the home run totals that the Royals have hit every year, going back to when the dimensions of the ball, because the dimensions, if you recall, the Royals moved the fences in from 1995 through, I believe, 2003.
Which I thought was a smart decision, and I bemoaned them moving them back out. I thought that was a bad decision.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, ultimately, I will say this. In retrospect, it probably didn't matter because that team sucked so bad that it wouldn't have mattered if they had played in Williamsport. They were going to be bad no matter what. But if you look since 2004, basically, which is when we've had the current dimensions, and Jeff, made a mention of the ballpark factors, but basically the ballpark has consistently every year reduced home runs in the range of about 15 to 20%. When you go back to 2003 and before, it was a neutral or even somewhat home run friendly ballpark, but it has reduced home runs consistently. Maybe one of the 2 or 3 toughest places to hit home runs in all of baseball for the last 20 plus years. So I looked at how many home runs they hit, how many they allowed at home and on the road, because the road numbers are what give you a better idea of the team's true quality, their true ability to hit for power, and then also how many home runs they allowed at home and on the road. And I think it's very instructive. If you look at how many home runs the Royals have hit at home, every year since 2004, they have never once finished in the top half of home runs hit at home in Major League Baseball, which makes sense because they were never designed as a home run team, but also their ballpark reduced home runs. The highest they finished was 18th, and that was the pandemic year. They actually finished 19th 2 years ago in 2023, but that's the highest they have ranked in home runs hit at home. But if you look at home runs hit on the road, so this is the true quality of the team, they've also been in the bottom half of the league almost every single year. I'm going to take out 2024 and 2025. I want to put those aside because that's the point here, is that the competition of today's roster versus the last 20 years. But if you take those years out, the only year they've ranked above 15th was 2017. I believe that might have been the year Mike Moustakas, or is that the year?
That was the year they set their record for home runs in a season.
Right. So, I mean, they were 11th in the majors in home runs hit on the road that year with 105. And that was also a very high home run year league-wide. So they hit 193, which, as you say, is their franchise record. And then you go back to 2011, they finished 15th. That was the good Kevin Seitzer year where Jeff Francoeur was actually a functional major leaguer, and they had like the best outfield in baseball. Aside from those 2 years, they've been in the bottom half in home runs on the road. So they are legitimately a poor home run hitting team. And they play in a ballpark that reduces home runs. But having a home run reduce home runs makes sense when you can't hit for power because you're hurting your team a lot less than the opponents. In 2024, and so in 2024 and 2025, they still ranked 27th in baseball in home runs hit at home. So they were still fourth worst in baseball at home. On the road, they were 11th in 2024 and 18th last year. That is their best two-year run in terms of their rankings since they moved the fences back 20 plus years ago. I mean, I think it's instructive to look at the 2014, 2015 teams as a comparison, right? Because you're looking at different models of what a winning team looks like in Kansas City. When they went to 2 World Series back to back, they were in 2014, famously, they were last in the American League in home runs, and they were 29th in baseball, second to last in home runs on the road. Only the Cardinals hit fewer home runs on the road than the 2014 Royals. And in 2015, they were still 21st. So for those teams were built for the ballpark. They had very little power. I mean, think about that 2014 team. Nori Aoki was your starting right fielder. And he was good. He did exactly what the Royals wanted him to do. He hit 1 home run. All right. Alcides Escobar was your starting shortstop. Lorenzo Cain even didn't hit for much power that year. Right. That team had 3 guys who got to double digits in home runs. They had not even Hosmer. It was Moustakas, Alex Gordon, and Salvador Perez, the only guys who even got to 10 home runs. So the ballpark was an asset that year. 2015, they had a little more power. They had Kendrys Morales, et cetera, but that was a team that benefited from the dimensions. I would not say that's the case for 2024 and 2025. Salvador Perez is a very different player for them. And Salvador Perez was a singles line drive hitter when he came up, and he is a sort of classic lumbering power hitter today. If you look at the pitching staff, though, that's where the numbers continue to fit the idea that it's time to move the fences in, because they've always been in the top half of the league in fewest home runs allowed at home, because again, the ballpark helps the pitching staff there. But on the road, they are consistently bottom half of the league in terms of the number of home runs allowed on the road. In 2012, they ranked 9th, and that's the only year in that entire 20-year stretch where they ranked better than 15th in terms of fewest home runs allowed on the road. So their pitching staff gave up lots of homers, while their hitters did not hit home runs. Makes sense. The last 2 years, in 2024, they gave up the 4th fewest home runs on the road. And last year it was 12th. So when they had the press conference and they were talking about how much the hitters would benefit and that they feel like their personnel fits the idea of moving the fences in, my concern was the pitching staff, because it's easy to look at Bobby Witt or Maikel Garcia or Jack Caglione and be like, yeah, he's going to benefit. It's harder to look at a pitcher and say, is this pitcher? All pitchers you feel like are going to suffer to some degree. but some pitchers are going to suffer more than others. The best way to avoid giving up home runs is to avoid giving up contact, right? Well, Cole Ragans is, on an inning per inning basis, one of the best strikeout guys in the sport. So like he will suffer less than almost any other pitcher. But as a team, these numbers bear out what they said, what Daniel Mack said in the press conference, which is that they give up soft contact. Because the Royals as a whole actually don't get a lot of strikeouts. In fact, they had I think the fewest strikeouts in baseball or in the American League last year, but they give up so much soft contact that they actually don't give up a ton of home runs.
That's one of the things they wanted to do was go out and add strikeouts,
right.
Which is one of the things I do worry about is because I think when strikeouts miss, when guys who get strikeouts miss, they are generating the power with their velocity.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
And so, but on a team-wide basis, the last 2 years, they have hit more home runs on the road than they normally do, than they really have in 20 years, and fewer home runs allowed. Add it all up. Number of home runs hit on the road versus number of home runs allowed on the road. That's essentially what we're looking at here, right? Like if they give up more home runs on the road than they hit, then there's no point moving the fences in, because what your point of moving the fences in is to make home play like the road. And every year, going back to 2003, the Royals were out-homered on the road, usually by significant margins. In 2024, they hit 94 homers on the road and allowed only 75. They had a plus 19 home run differential on the road. That is unlike anything they've done going back, at least as far back as, I think 2002 as far back. And actually, I take that back. 2003, the fluky 2003 with the old ballpark dimensions. That was the last time they out-homered their opponents on the road. But plus 19 in 2024. Last year, they hit 89 and allowed 90. So they were at -1, essentially even. But they had not been, I think the best ratio before that was -11. Like they have not been anywhere close. Even 2014 and 2015. In 2015, they were out-homered by 19. And in 2014, they were out-homered by 10. But 2014, nobody hit home runs anywhere. It was a very low home run year. So the point being is, just looking at how much power they allow and hit on the road, the team is, at the very least, it's a neutral move. But I think based on what they can expect going forward, adding Caglione and Jensen, for the first time in a generation and maybe more, I actually think it's reasonable to say that a friendly home run park is actually a good thing for the Kansas City Royals. And so I'm sure that, Daniel Mack and his team have put in roughly 1,000 times as many hours in analyzing what I just talked about. But like, sometimes it's good to take the bird's eye view and just be like, does this team have more power than it's going to give up? And the answer is legitimately yes, for the first time in a very, very long time. So I support this.
I think I asked Daniel Mack how many man hours. I think he said 190. So not thousands.
I heard that, and I wonder if he was just referring to himself, because like that 100, I think he said 150, and I'm like,
it's 150, okay,
yeah, and I'm like 150 hours. That's a team of 17. That's one day. I'm like, no, I think that's 150 per person, maybe.
Yeah,
we could get back to him on that, but I'm sure they put in a ton of effort. Because then it's one thing to say, okay, we want more home runs. Then it's a matter of, okay, how far do we move them in? The decision to keep center field where it is. That's the one other thing I want to talk about, which aesthetically, I don't like having center field that's really deep, because I don't like the idea of hitters getting punished for hitting a ball right up the middle, which is what hitters are told to do since they're in Little League. Hit the ball up the middle. And maybe it's because we have like so much data now. Every ball that's hit, we see an exit velo and a launch angle. But it drives me nuts when I see a guy hit a launch angle of 26 degrees and he hit 102 miles an hour, and it's a fly out to center field. Whereas if he hits that same ball but doesn't hit it up the middle, hits to left, it's like, in 20 yards back.
So they didn't move it in enough for you.
Well, center field specific, I like the idea. My ideal ballpark aesthetically, this is not talking about competitively, but aesthetically, is to have a center field that's as close to the home plate as possible, but to make it deeper in the corners. I also don't like the pop-up that's right down the line that, is mishit and just like trickles over the fence. Like that's also annoying for everybody, I think. As a pitcher, if you give that kind of hit, it drives you nuts.
You'd like center field to touch second base.
Well, I mean,
down the lines to
be like way back. Exactly. That would be if I'm playing a video game baseball. Yes. So the rules in the major leagues, you have to have 400 feet to center. It's actually one of the few ballpark rules there is. I say Wrigley Field actually kind of fits the model of what I look for, because Wrigley, the power alleys in center are not deep at all, but it is actually a little bit deeper down the lines. And so sometimes you can get a ball, and that's where, I love the character of Royal Stadium being such a great place, or I guess back, especially when it was Royal Stadium, when it was a great place for triples, like the idea of like a ball being able to get away in the corner and then have a batter be able to like just run freely. And I think there's a way to still make the ballpark play that way. You're going to lose a little bit of that character. But the one thing I will say in favor of keeping center field the way it is that Kauffman Stadium is known. If you ask people what's unique about Kauffman Stadium, everyone will say it's bad for home runs. But there's actually something even more unique to the character of Kauffman Stadium that nobody talks about, myself included. I feel like I do not talk about this enough. Kauffman Stadium, and this bears out in the data even longer than the home run thing, because even if you go back before they moved the fences in, this effect was there. Kauffman Stadium might be the best place in baseball to make contact. It reduces strikeouts by like 10 to 12%, which is even, at least the last couple of years, even more than Coors Field, which is amazing because Coors Field has the laws of physics on its side, which states that, basically air pressure, when you're at 5,200 feet above sea level, thin air makes it more difficult for a baseball to spin, which takes, which makes curveballs and breaking balls of all types move less. And so Coors Field is famously a very easy place to make contact, a tough place to strike out hitters. Kauffman is somehow a better place to make contact than even Coors. It brings to mind, the joke about can they make the entire airplane out of the black box? Can we make all of baseball out of Kauffman Stadium? Because strikeouts are the scourge of the sport. It's eating the sport alive, the number of strikeouts. The solution might be have a batter, whatever the Royals' batter's eye is, because everybody says just has a tremendous batter's eye. It's easy to see the ball coming out of the pitcher's hand at Kauffman Stadium. I don't want to lose that. So the fact that they're not messing with center field, that's the one thing I do like about this. I love the fact that it's a great place to make contact. Baseball is more fun when the ball is in play. Strikeouts, it's fun to see one guy rack up 20 strikeouts, but in modern baseball, you never see that. Even though strikeouts are more than they've ever been, you never see a guy strike out more than 16 hitters in a game because nobody ever goes more than 7 innings. So I'd rather see the ball in play. So my hope is this is going to be still a very good ballpark for batting average, doubles, triples, and an average ballpark for home runs. It's going to be a good hitter's park. And we're going to have to take that into account, especially when evaluating, for instance, the new hitting coaches. We're already primed to think that they're going to be great. They might look like geniuses in April, and it may just be the ballpark. So we should probably, keep that in mind. But I do think that it's going to be a more fun brand of baseball we're going to see, and I think it's going to be better for the Royals in terms of wins and losses over the next 5 years too.
Yeah, I think so as well, and I think, I'm optimistic. That's why I asked Jeff about that. The mindset will also create more offense as well. That just having that it's not just going to be what the numbers are, that when they go in with a mindset of, I can hit the ball over the wall. This is not as intimidating as everybody makes it out to be, that we're going to see even more offense from that, right? That's where it's going to be a multiplier, right? I mean, do you believe? I mean, I know mindset is not something we can quantify with numbers, but I believe that when you get a bunch of good hitters in a lineup together, they feed off each other. It raises all the boats, right? I think there's got to be an effect like that on hitters, I think, as well, with the ballpark, knowing, okay, I can reach this. I think it will be better.
Yeah, I mean,
better than just the numbers.
I agree. I suspect they probably had already made the decision before, August. But seeing Jack Caglione hit 157, that had to certainly reinforce the decision that because I mean, when he came up, he was hitting the ball hard, and some of it was just launch angle. He wasn't hitting the ball in the air enough. But the ballpark, if you are a pure power hitter, the ballpark has to get in your head. And, it's interesting how, JJ brought up the Eric Hosmer triple as the first time they started thinking about this. At least that didn't end up impacting, a playoff game because they scored and won anyway. To me, the one that the moment where I really started to think like, man, this ballpark is becoming potentially a liability. It's interesting because like now that I see the numbers like that, the Royals had enough power that actually bringing the fences might help them, was a different playoff fly ball. And that was Kyle Isbell's would-be home run in the 7th inning of Game 4 against the Yankees. For 3 seconds, I thought that Kyle Isbell, number 9 hitting Kyle Isbell, had just tied the game against the New York Yankees in the bottom of the 7th inning. And it's interesting in that right before that at bat, they had put up the graphic on the screen about the wind at Kauffman Stadium. And that's another thing. And I mean, I know that Daniel Mack he said it bluntly that they evaluated everything, including wind patterns. And I don't think I really appreciate it until that moment, because and after the game and looking into it more, that one of the reasons that Kauffman Stadium does play as big as it is, yes, the fences, the location of the fences is a big factor, but the wind generally plays in from the outfield at Kauffman. And it's just the nature of the direction that, the stadium is facing and the wind patterns around Kansas City. But the wind usually has an effect of somewhere to like 2 to 3 feet in terms of fly balls. And at that exact moment, the wind was blowing in. And I think they said it was probably a 5 or 6 foot difference. And Juan Soto caught that ball up against the wall. And absolutely no doubt, on a warmer day, but even on a windless day, or on a day where the fences were where there will be in 2026, that's a home run. That's the ball that I think about when I think about how Kauffman Stadium can hurt you. And that's going to be a home run going forward. And look, it's going to hurt the Royals. No question. There's going to be games that the Royals lose on a home run that wouldn't have been otherwise. But if you believe in their ability to develop pitching as we do, and you also believe that they're bringing up as exciting a duo of power hitters as they've had in a long time to supplement a team that already has a lot of power, I think that this is going to be a good move for the team on the field, wins and losses, and it's going to be good for the fans, more fun baseball. And if it doesn't work out, well, guess what? And hopefully in 5 years, you're going to have a new stadium. It won't matter anyway. Yeah. But maybe you'll learn some lessons from this as well that may inform the way you design the next ballpark.
Absolutely. We want to thank Jeff Passan again for joining us from ESPN. He's fantastic. Appreciate his time here today. And, of course, we thank our great sponsors. Remember, you can support the Kauffman Corner podcast by supporting our great sponsors, Gann Asphalt and Concrete. If you own or manage a business, your parking lot's a problem, solve it. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot, free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warranty. More than 30 years serving Kansas City. They are the best. And our friends at Whataburger. Check them out. They're open 24 hours a day, serving breakfast 11 p to 11 a. All your favorites are there. My favorite, the patty melt, is on my agenda for tonight. Go get it today. Proud sponsor of the Kauffman Corner podcast. It is our friends at Whataburger. For the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli, I'm Soren Petro, saying thank you very much for joining us here.